Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. And, we created this show because we wanted everybody with an invisible condition to know without a doubt that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. And that is so important with this whole community. And so that is what we're doing. And speaking of not alone, I have an amazing guest today named Chiari Stivers. Good morning, Charlie.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. This is awesome. And I know we originally were going to have Keri on here too as well, but she had a last minute thing, and so we're going to hopefully she'll chime in. Hi, Keri. Hello. Hopefully we miss you. We want you here, but we get it. Maybe she'll chime in later on the comments and stuff, and we can go that route. But yeah, Charlie, tell me, about yourself and your family, and yeah, what are we here for?
So the main purpose is to bring awareness to what they call Chiari Malformation, and basically it's a congenital birth defect where the portion of the brain is too big for the size of the skull, and thereby pushes down a small part of the cerebellum into the spinal cord. And as you can imagine, anything that messes with the central nervous system can wreak havoc on the body. And you could say there's probably 20 different things that could go wrong. And my daughter, Lulu, actually suffers from a Chiari Malformation, and she went through the decompression surgery.
Wow. Okay. So and for those that may not know you, tell us about yourself. I mean, have you always been in Colorado? Where are you from? What do you do? All that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I actually grew up as a child in New Jersey on a farm in Western New Jersey. And it was an Angus cattle farm. We were all, involved in 4-H and showing the cattle and, making a business out of it. So my parents got to go to the stock show every year and fell in love with Colorado. So we moved here when I was a freshman in high school, and I've been here ever since, and have raised a family, 2 kids, boy, girl, and they are 14 and 12. So Lulu is 12.
Lulu's 12. Okay. Awesome. Man, 4-H, that's something we have in common. We didn't do the cattle thing. We did all the other stuff like photography and I don't know, leather working. I think my son did the like a 22 pistol for a project. I don't know. Anyway, we stayed away from the animals because we're in the city. We're city folk. We don't live on a farm. I can't believe there's farms in New Jersey. That doesn't. I think in New Jersey, I don't think of farms. That doesn't seem to jive in my brain.
Yes, good old Newark Airport. They give us that stigma.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's there. I'm sorry, it's true. It's true, but that's the first thing. That's not the first thing you think of when you think of New Jersey. But so as far as with the live audience, anybody watching out there, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. It's awesome. Anybody out there know of anybody or maybe somebody in the family with Chiari? I'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from you and talk back and forth, and maybe you could share your experience a little bit in the chat. So it'd be awesome to hear from you. For Lulu, when did you first think maybe suspect there was something going on with her health that led you to that?
Yeah, so it was pretty bizarre. Having children, they always talk about, they got to sleep on their back. Well, neither one of my kids would sleep on their back, so they were belly sleepers. So we got the Angel Care monitor that detects respirations or when respirations stop under their crib mattress. So my son was fine. And then my daughter, 15 months later, same thing. And, intermittently the alarm would go off, and we're like, what the heck? We would run in there and like put our hand on her and be like, she's breathing, she's fine, what the heck's going on? Well, and then about, I think it was 3 or 4 months later, Keri, the kid's mom, had a like a gallbladder emergency removal, and
Yeah.
we like, hey neighbors, can you watch our kids?
Right. Yeah.
And
Nice
literally
to
it
have
was
your
that
neighbors
fast.
like that. Yeah.
Right. And we were friends with them. They had young kids as well. And so we got a text while we're at I'm in the waiting room. Your daughter stops breathing when she sleeps. We're like, what? Well, we kind of knew something was up, but
Yeah.
so that kind of started it all. And then went through all the research, and we'll get into that story. But yeah, that was the catalyst.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason that I named the show what I did, is because of that story you told me about with the 8-second delay, right? So we'll dive into that a little bit later,
Yeah.
but that's
The 8-second gap. That was good. That was good.
There's 8-second gap. That's right. That's what I put up there. I can read. I can. I promise. I'm looking.
Do you want me to expand on that?
We can right now or later. Either way,
however you want to set it up.
However, we'll get there. We'll get there maybe in a minute. But so you figured it out after that. But so was that part of the process of getting diagnosed then, or what when that started happening? What'd you do? What was the next step?
So yeah, what we found out is Chiari is about as common as multiple sclerosis. So there's only about 250,000 cases now that it's becoming known. So it's pretty rare. And so as you can imagine, finding a specialist for this was really tough. So we went through 2, and this is where Keri comes into play a little bit better about, taking the kids or Lulu to specialists and the doctors and all that. But
sure.
We started with primary care, just like normal. They had no clue. They're like, talk to this specialist, that specialist. And it was something to do with neuro something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a neurosurgeon at first. But then they finally said, hey, let's do an MRI. And then neurosurgeon came into play, and they're like, oh, see this thing. Can I show the picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see if this works.
Let me see if I can.
Interesting. Oh, present slide. There it is. Cool.
Nah, I didn't see it. Let me see if I can do it.
Oh, there it goes.
There we go. So nice. Okay, so what are we looking at? So
this is the cerebellum, and part of the, you can see here, it's trying to force it down into the spinal cord, and Lulu's goes down about this far, and they call that a tongue. And basically you can see here how it chokes off the nervous system, or the spinal cord. So at the time, and still in practice, is this decompression surgery where they remove part of the skull and make the hole in the skull bigger. So, the hope is, because Lulu was just turned 3 at the time of the surgery.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And she has an incision scar in the back of her skull. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they call the decompression surgery survivors, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I think survivors is fitting. Zipper heads, because literally they have the big skull or scar in the back of the skull.
Looks like you could just grab it and yeah.
Yeah.
But don't,
Right? Yeah.
That's crazy. Zipper heads. All right.
So, and they put some kind of net in here to help contain it better than just the skin and the tissue.
So there's literally no skull between, so, but there's tissue, and I mean, there's something back there, right? It's not just here's.
Well, that net, we never got to see what the net looked like. It's like a mesh that they sew in
like
back there.
A mesh. Okay. But so there's brain, and then mesh, and then skin. I mean, that seems
right.
That's kind of fragile, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of
right.
a little not,
it is. So
that seems a little,
So as you can imagine, yes, they lose that protectiveness, the natural protectiveness of the skull. So, in her daily activity of life and just being an active child, we have to monitor, how jarring is it? Like, she can't really go on roller coasters anymore or do the trampoline thing. And any kind of like head trauma issues. So we have to be careful of that and remind her of that as well, because as kids, get active, they don't think about those things.
Not usually. Nope.
Right.
They shouldn't really, honestly, let them be kids, right? Let's, for us to worry, we'll worry about that. You be a kid. But so was it, so did she play? She didn't play much sports or anything like that in school then?
She loves being active, and so she got into both my kids are kind of just wanting to try everything. So basketball, gymnastics, we were super nervous about gymnastics, and volleyball stuck. So we're like, all right, volleyball, it's still active, but not as jarring or physical. So she's really been kind of focused on that, which we're happy about.
That's awesome. And she's still playing now. Like she's what, 12? So she's in middle school?
Mm-hmm. 7th grade.
Nice.
And she just finished her season, and it's fun. I mean, it's so interesting how she's kind of developed this self-discipline for herself, not necessarily because of her injury. It's just part of who she is, but she's so good about, I want to be home by 7:30 so I can be in bed by 8, do her whole routine. And she's so focused on her schoolwork. And, we wonder, she does have some struggles with schoolwork. And I think that's why she's so determined to like do well. So we do kind of wonder if it's affected any kind of like cognition or recall. But she seems to be adapting really well. And, you hear about kids growing up with dyslexia and how they overcome that challenge.
Yeah. I mean, growing up with hydrocephalus, I had plenty of things that, I mean, I don't think I had any like real problems in school other than I hated math, but, I mean, but I don't think I had any like actual cognitive, to my knowledge, but even if that's not there, the fact that she is so focused on school and getting to bed on time and getting the right amount of sleep and getting her work done and all that, I mean, it could be a lot worse, that sounds like almost a dream scenario for some parents, it's like, man, I wish I could get my kid to go to bed at a certain time,
And total opposite from my son.
Well, there you go. Well, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's always one of those too, I get it.
Yes, of course.
So
you gotta balance each other out.
That's for sure. What happens when you have 3? I'm still not sure what happens when you have 3. We've got 3, and I don't know how the balancing out thing works with that, but
the dogs are our third. Yeah. The dogs are our third.
There you go. That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So brain surgery. So brain surgery is really the only treatment for this. Is what I'm thinking, right? Like that doesn't sound like anything you could do much more with than to relieve the pressure.
Yeah, and we're all different, right? So and everyone responds differently to the surgery. For her, it didn't necessarily eliminate her symptoms, we'll get into in a minute. But, the hope is as they're growing that it doesn't, or it allows, the body to grow without further issues. So that's our hope. And I think coming up, we have another MRI to determine if there needs to be any kind of further surgeries or treatment.
Yeah.
But to monitor it or mitigate the pain, we need to, keep anti-inflammatories handy, rotator between, Tylenol and ibuprofen, especially if we know she's going to be like outside, in extreme temperatures.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's the thing.
She does get migraines pretty easily, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for some Chiari sufferers, it's like a really horrible migraines.
Yeah. I mean, because that's a kind of an important part of your skull and your brain and your spine and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yes, that you start poking around in there, whether it's the Chiari, the malformation, doing it, or if it's surgeons, or if it's whatever it is. When you start poking around in the brain, man, it's like poking a bear. It's not, it can result in all kinds of fun things,
Absolutely
fun, but yes, migraines. I've experienced those too, man. They're no joke. Does she ever get resistant to any of those medications? I mean, you said you alternate between ibuprofen and Tylenol. Has she ever been resistant or anything?
Right. We don't think so. It's not like she's on it all the time. It's more good. As needed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. Building up the resistance on that is tough, man. I know a lot of people that are on really strong, some of those of those really turbo drugs, and they build up a resistance to it, and then nothing helps. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And part of just from my recall, cerebellum helps control motor activity. So she does have a little bit of this clumsiness that we have to watch out for, or balance here and there. Yeah. So we've always had to be careful about stairs, and
sure.
She, and you asked this when we were kind of talking, like, does she show any kind of symptoms during her normal life? And, besides the clumsiness, that's really the only thing. And we'll notice she gets the rosy cheeks a lot more quickly than a lot of the kids.
Okay.
Who knows? Yeah. That could be just hereditary. I had rosy cheeks too, but it is interesting to kind of pay attention to her while she's just doing her thing.
Right? Because she's not, probably. So no. She's just doing her thing. Right. So cool. Well, right on. Well, we're gonna go to break here real quick, but when we get back, I wanna talk about the 8-second gap, because that's what we call the show. And I know we didn't set it up in the first segment, but I want you to, because I thought that was kind of cool. So let's let's do that in a second. I'll give me 1 second, and we'll be back in just a few. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Um, Talking with Charlie about Chiari Malformation and his daughter, Lulu. And the reason the episode is called the 8-second gap is because of a conversation Charlie and I had earlier about this whole episode. And I think you were saying it had something to do with when you had to rush to the hospital and then they were watching your daughter. And yeah, tell us about that. What happened there?
Yeah, so with the Angel Care monitor, it detects respirations because she's was a belly sleeper as an infant, and with them saying your daughter stops breathing when she sleeps, we're like, then we started, she slept with us in bed, and we would monitor it, and literally she would have 2 or 3 respirations, and then we were like timing it, and she would pause for 8 seconds in her respirations. And this is that pattern of her respirations she's had her whole life. And even after the surgery, now like a normal kid, she'll maybe fall asleep in the back of the car. And I'll reach back and I'll be like, she's still doing it. And sure enough, it's the same pattern. And so, because of that, we say, or part of her treatment is she does have to sleep with oxygen on at night, just a nasal cannula, not the whole sleep apnea thing. But, she was diagnosed with like a neuro sleep apnea. So, every morning she wakes up is a blessing and we're grateful.
Right. Totally. And this is just when she's sleeping. This isn't when she's awake. It's only when she's asleep.
Mm-hmm. Good old central nervous system.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. I mean, you kind of get used to it, but do you really? I mean, that's still got it. Yeah. Man. Well, how many, so with Chiari malformation, so how many, are there different types of malformations, or is there different, classifications, or what are we?
Yeah, more like severity. So,
Okay.
Going back to that infographic, I can show you again. This part, this tongue, like I said, Lulu's goes down to about here. And then some can go further. So, this is like stage 1, stage 2, and then stage 3 and 4, that's where you get into spinal bifida, where it really messes up the central nervous system. Yeah. So the severe form of Chiari is spinal bifida.
Huh. So, okay. See, I didn't realize those two were connected, spinal bifida and so, because I was wondering, as it goes down, yeah, it would have to impact the spine. Is there any danger of any like paralysis or anything like that? I mean, that's your spine,
Right. Yeah. Well, in spinal bifida, obviously, that's not an invisible condition.
No.
They have, very severe disabilities and, formation physically and motor function. So, we're lucky that, it's like a stage 1, stage 2 scenario, and, we're just doing what we can. And, every 2 years we have to do a sleep study just to see if there's any changes. And then I don't know how often it is, but, the MRI is coming up again for her, with the neurosurgeon to monitor her brain growth and body growth. Because now, with her becoming a young lady, we're dealing with the hormone stuff, and we hope that, her body grows, normally, and, and deal with all the normal hormone stuff that most young ladies do. And so far, so good.
Well, good. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't occur to me that would automatically, impact that, but you never know,
Right.
when you're, like I said, when you're poking around on the brain, anything's possible, So, so with this, did the doctors, when you talked to them, and they figured out what it was and how the treatment was going to go, was it a fluke, or was there a cause? Is there any hereditary factors with this, or like in general, like is this or is it just usually a fluke?
So it's interesting. Nothing hereditary that we know. I've never had a MRI on my brain, and I think beyond my sleeping is probably just the normal snoring. But and same with Keri. I don't think she's had an MRI on her brain either. So the hereditary, I don't think it's necessarily connected there. And for current patients, other patients, a lot of time, they don't look for it unless there's other kind of brain trauma or injury where it does require some kind of, spinal or brain MRI. And they're like, oh, you have this Chiari malformation condition. Do you suffer from migraines on a regular basis? And you're like, that's what's going on. So it's just discovered through other reasons in a lot of cases.
So is that something? So how young is it possible to detect that? Because if they're not looking for anything strange, if it's like a normal baby, right, everything's cool until, when does it normally manifest itself? Or do you have to wait for that? Or, I mean, I guess you wouldn't test it unless there was a reason, but when does it start to crop up?
Yeah. So, just like any kind of birth defect, something could trigger, further testing or x-rays or MRIs. So, everyone's different. Everybody's different.
Right.
Symptoms, central nervous system. Like I said, there's 20 different things that can go wrong. So, if there's some kind of catalyst there or symptom that they want to figure out, it's usually through some kind of research.
Huh. Okay. So there's really no reason that somebody would check for that. I mean, that's not like a standard test they do or anything. It's not like,
like scoliosis back in our school days, we'd have the school exam, like, do you have any kind of, malformation in your spine? There's nothing like that. For older patients who, because this is kind of newer, it may be like, hey, doc, I suffer from migraine so bad, or I have this other condition. I want to figure this out, and that's how, older patients figure it out eventually too.
I wonder, like, I think I remember meeting somebody that said they didn't find out until much later because it was there. It was there, but it wasn't a problem until it was a problem, right? Until it grew, until it, expanded or whatever it did. And so is that something that you guys are going to have to watch for? Is it possible that it could expand more? Or is it like once it's at a certain age or at a certain spot, it just like, okay, that's it? Or
and so I bumped into an old friend in Costco from high school, and she said that once or twice a year I'll post something on it for Chiari Awareness Month, and they'll have one of the purple ribbons. And she's like, I don't know if you knew this, but my sister, who was in my grade, suffers from Chiari, and she said she's always wanted to reach out to me, but I guess like it's so debilitating to her. She's like almost 100% disabled, where she's like stuck at home, and just has a problem living a daily life.
And she's your age. She's
and I haven't talked to her yet. I'm actually coming up on my high school reunion, so I'm hoping she'll be there. But I tagged her sister in my Facebook share, so we'll see if she watches this or reaches out.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, and like you said, everybody's different, right? So every person's different, every body's different, every brain's different. So you never know what the impact's going to be. But that's holy cow. So excuse me. What's the hardest part with this? I mean, living with somebody with Chiari? I mean, what's the hardest part of maybe daily life? Is there something that's a struggle every day, or?
And that's where, Keri could have really helped with this. Because the kids live with her, pretty much 100% of the time. We live 5 minutes apart, so I get to see my kids almost every day. So, we have to, the 504, which you're probably aware of with the schools, it's on their chart where, hey, if she's hungry out of the blue, maybe she just needs a protein bar. Lulu is our water drinker. We say, she's always drinking water. She's never liked sodas or juices or sweet stuff, but she's our water drinker. Yeah. And she's a snacker. So, you do wonder how it's affecting her appetite. And so we always have to have, fruit or a bar on hand, and then communicate that with the school and the school nurse. Yeah. Oftentimes, I think this, I work in the area. I'm self-employed. So, part of being able to be available, Keri's self-employed, I'm self-employed. Nice. And, like yesterday, we want to support her and being active. So she's like, hey, can you pick me up from school? I want to go to the gym with my friends. So I'm like, absolutely. So just being available to support her and Nico too, my son, is important to us and is a necessity, actually. So if there's a school lunch that Lulu's like, oh, they're serving this today, will you pick up, Chick-fil-A or something like that? I'm like, I'm at work. Yes, I can do that for you. So, just being ready,
that's awesome.
And between Keri and I, like if I'm out of town or she's, in the middle of work, we coordinate that. So it's a lot of just lifestyle management for our kids.
Well, and being self-employed versus an employee of somebody else is huge for that. My heart goes out to people that I see at my school that I work at, and it's so crazy because they'll come in and they're so rushed, and they come in and they bring, like, maybe their kid needs a medication or needs some food or something that they didn't have with them. Yeah. And man, that is huge. I think you're in the minority, by the way. I think that's not typical. So, but with your story and with this situation, I think that worked out for the best, because that is huge that you're able to do that. And I don't know, that's really cool.
We both kind of got lucky with that. I was always more of an entrepreneur anyway. Yeah. And 2006, before we had kids, which Nico was born in 2009, we had a dry cleaning business. And so we were able to have that flexibility, and Keri still has that. So, nice. And then I continued my self-employment and business. And so we make it work.
Yeah. That's what other choice do you have, right? You got what you got to do. Yeah.
Especially you don't have the stability or like the really good insurance, but, Keri's able to qualify for Medicaid, and we've been pleasantly surprised with how supportive Medicaid has been with this condition, and especially with kids. And Lulu's grown up through the Children's Hospital here in Colorado her whole life, and because of that, she'll always have, even as an adult, they allow adults to go to Children's Hospital because as a child they grew up through that system.
Yep. Yeah. My last surgery at Children's Hospital Denver was at 18. I've never gone back, but I didn't know they did that. I didn't know you could go back as an adult to Children's Hospital if that's where you've had surgeries before. That's kind of cool. I never knew that. Huh. Not that I would want to go back now, but
right. I know.
I'm good.
And we actually did have to pivot to a different care provider and specialist. Just through needs, special needs.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, totally. Everybody gets, you grow and you as you get older, as she gets older, needs will change, that's how it works. But, before we go to another break, is there anything that you could say, with all the crazy, I'm thankful for this regarding Chiari?
So there's two things, with all the awful things that could happen, we're glad that she's thriving and doesn't have some, I have another friend who lost their child from a horrible cancer. So we're grateful for that. And we're grateful she wakes up every morning.
Right. That's huge. And that's something that no parent wants to think about, but that is a huge thing to be thankful for every day. Yeah, that's amazing. And one last thing that I want to ask before we go is, what do you wish people knew about having somebody in the family with Chiari?
It's tough because everyone's different. Just that understanding and grace and patience. And hopefully, like, it just opens up dialogue to get more answers, or compassion. So I think anything along those lines with a disability that affects kids' lives or people's lives, that it just brings awareness and curiosity.
I mean, I think that's true of any of these invisible conditions that we've covered over the last few weeks. Is grace, man. Just give people grace, because you never know what they're going through. I mean, somebody has something happen to them in traffic or walking down the street or in the store or whatever, and I don't know why. It's just over the years, I think, as humanity, we've just jumped to the worst case scenario and thought, well, they're doing this or that. But man, just that our go-to should be compassion, right? And just that's huge. And I've had to work on that too, man, because it's tough, but that's valuable. That's where that's what it should be. So, well, thank you. Let's go to one more break, and then we'll come back and chat some more. Give me 1 second here. All right. Okay. We will be back shortly. Stay with us. Right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Welcome back with Charlie. There he is. All right. Okay. So now that we have talked about all the crazy that comes with see, I am that child that had the crazy thing happen, the invisible condition that I was born with. So I don't know the perspective of the parent. So this has been valuable, because I always wonder what my parents thought growing up, and and doing and all this stuff. And I was a crazy kid. I did all kinds of crazy crap that I that probably should have killed me over the years. And I can't imagine the gray hair I gave them. So this has been, I mean, yeah, it's nuts. But through all that, so with all of that said and all this craziness, how do you find hope day to day?
That's, I guess sometimes you do take that for granted. And a lot of it is, falls on, I believe in being self-reliant as possible and raising our kids to be good adults and self-reliant as possible.
Yeah.
So, we're thankful that, it's trending well so far. And, and we just do what we can, like any parent, and provide all the resources and opportunities for fun and learning and discovering new things and being curious and supporting that. So, the hope is that it doesn't get worse.
Of course.
And she grows into a and it does get emotional when you think about it.
It does. Yeah, it can. I mean, understandably so, man. It's a big deal. This is your flesh and blood, man. So it
right.
It does. It gets emotional. I get it.
Yeah, just seeing kids suffer is especially hard, but and you just hope they live as normal life as possible, and that's all you can hope for. And like I said, we hope she wakes up every morning.
Exactly. Yes, for sure. Well, you and Keri, I don't know Keri myself personally, but it sounds like you guys have done a phenomenal job of not letting this condition rule your life or rule Lulu's life. Like my parents did the same thing. Sounds like you guys are kind of on the same wavelength my parents were when I was diagnosed with hydrocephalus. Growing up, they never said, no, you can't do that because you have this, terrible condition. And, they never made me feel like the sick, debilitated, disabled kid,
right.
That has this thing and, we got to watch out for you. No. They just kind of gently steered me in directions of things that they knew I could do and encouraged me in that, so, not toward football and basketball and soccer where you're knocking your head around all the time, it's to band and choir and different things like that. So it sounds like you guys are, rocking it as far as that goes. I mean, it's, she sounds like she's growing up to be a well-adjusted, amazing young lady so far. And of course, we don't want anything else, to progress or complicate things.
Yeah.
Of course, that's everybody's prayer that, but yeah.
And like I told you when we first started talking about this is, I give, all the credit goes to Keri, Lulu's mom, because, just like she has more of the in-depth stories and probably would have got way emotional. But she lives with her and, deals with it on an ongoing basis, the good and the bad, the normal emotions, and even the physical issues too. So, and Keri's been, the one that is Lulu's advocate through the school systems, through the medical system. So, I respect her for that, and she's done a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, kudos to you for being that support too, though. I mean, there's so many families that are, that one parent has custody, one parent only sees them sometimes, and they live further apart than you guys do. I mean, living,
Right.
45 minutes, an hour apart, and they're, I mean, you guys are doing, I mean, I know it's, I can't imagine it being easy, but you seem to be doing well, man. I mean, it's
Making
nice
it
to
work. I mean,
enough.
we live in a super expensive, I mean, it everywhere's expensive now, but this part
Yeah.
in Colorado that we live in
Yeah.
is very expensive. So, we make it work. Self-employment, gives us the flexibility, but we don't have necessarily that stability in a constant paycheck that we can count on. So, we, like most self-employed people, we work when we can. And
Yep.
sometimes it's waking up at 5, 6 a.m. or working until midnight. So we find a way.
I get it. Yeah. I'm in the same boat. So yeah, and if you're not, and if you're not working, you're not eating, right? So you got to find the way to do it. So yeah, I mean, that is one thing that where a job is funny, because people say, well, wouldn't a job be easier? But only in some ways. And then, but
In
then in
some
other
ways.
ways, it's really not. Like the availability. You might have a steady paycheck and you might have the insurance that's cheap or whatever, but you wouldn't have the availability that you have now to be able to, go to the school if you need to, or bring her stuff. So yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
Absolutely. Just to be present is important.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's huge. I mean, so with the community being kind of small, you said this is kind of rare. Do you find that so that you guys aren't an island, you and Keri, I mean, is there like in-person communities or online communities, or what have you found that's helped?
Yeah, Facebook has been the best with the different groups they have available. I did share it on there.
Nice.
I was just kind of curious if you check comments, you never know who's going to chime in. But nothing in person, and it's just more of a network or a group of people. And you'll see people like post a question in there, like, hey, more random, like, hey, does anyone experience this condition? And someone will respond, yeah, that's one of my symptoms. So nothing like super extensive. And then as far as like research, all the major ones are now putting out content and documentation on what's going on, just to bring awareness, because there's no real solution, just like most birth defects.
I mean, it's not a sickness that you can get well from. That's what a lot of people misunderstand about these. It's like, I'm not calling it invisible illnesses, because we're not sick. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not sick. It's a condition. It's lifelong. It's something we were born with, and it's something we'll live with for the rest of our life. So it's a condition, but,
and I'm glad you use that instead of disability, because, that is such a polarizing word. And, I know there is a group here in Colorado called Invisible Disabilities, but, I'm glad to see your show is conveying more of, it's just a condition that's part of life that, we adapt to.
Because whether it is debilitating or not is dependent on the person. So I don't want to, that's exactly right. I didn't want to, I didn't want to lump everybody into that, because they're not.
Right.
Not everybody is there are a lot of people you wouldn't even know they had a condition unless they told you. Right. So, depending on the condition. So no, thank you. That was, you saw that, right? That's good. Because that was on purpose. So, what would you, out of curiosity, like what would you say to somebody that just found out that their child is going to have to start down this road with Chiari?
Yeah, that's interesting because how serious the surgery is. I mean, it's pretty much brain surgery, and you're removing
Yeah.
part of the skull. Um, there we did come across some studies saying that the decompression surgery it maybe necessarily isn't that helpful. But how
Hmm.
can again it goes back to everyone's different, and sometimes you just got to trust the doctors and the professionals and hope
Yeah.
that their recommendation is accurate. And you just don't know with a growing body what helps or what doesn't. And in these groups you do see like, oh, I have to go in for another decompression surgery, and
Yeah.
it just makes you wonder, it's like, ooh, how severe is her or his uh, malformation. And so it's that's part of the discernment is, do we
Hmm.
do the surgery or just hope for the best and treat it with meds?
Yeah.
um so it's really tough.
Kind of a crapshoot. Yeah, I get it.
It
Yeah,
is.
because you don't know, you don't live in her brain. She does, right? And sometimes she can't. It's hard to express,
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, especially when they're little, or younger, Um, well, is there, as I mean, time always goes so stinking fast, and we're almost at the end here, but is there any, I know that there's probably, is there any organizations that you would recommend, or is there anything that you want to say? Like, I know you also have a show on E360, so I didn't know if you wanted to throw that out there and let people know about that, so we can. But go ahead. We got about a minute, maybe less than a
Well,
minute
thank
left. Go.
you. Yeah, well, you had the commercial on Achieve Systems, so I'm grateful for them. That's how we met. And
Yeah.
and they also led us to this E360 platform. And we have our own channel now through Achieve TV. So grateful for that. And in my business, I've always been in the financial world where I've been more purpose driven rather than money motivated.
Yeah.
And through all of my research, and my schooling was tech, so I gravitated to cryptocurrency and just been totally curious and digging deep into that. So my purpose is to help people discover and get started with cryptocurrency the right way,
Nice.
which is safely, confidently, then profitably. So
Yeah.
and I tell people, everyone's like, what is this crypto thing? Just keep it simple. It's the evolution
Yeah.
of the internet. If the internet's going to be around in the future, right? So start learning it and
Yeah.
get involved, and yeah, you can make some money along the way. And it'll be nice to see that we're ready for it when it's adopted by the masses.
And when is your show? It's Goose Live,
Goose
right?
Live. So we look for the next golden goose in crypto, and so that's the play on that. And we
Nice.
teach good best practices. So keep the golden goose alive, which is important.
Yes.
Don't be greedy. And all the stuff that goes with it. So it's
Sure.
Thursdays at noon Mountain Time. Goose Live.
Nice.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, check it out. It's good stuff. He has some good guests on there sometimes too, and yeah, you do some with guests, some not. So it's kind of cool. It's a little different.
Plenty to talk about. Just
Oh yeah.
like your
Oh
topic.
God.
Yeah, and people are
Totally.
curious. It's a relevant topic.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it, man. I thank you for being here. Thank you for all the info and being so vulnerable with all this. I know it can be tough sometimes, but I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We're out of time already. Join us on Friday. Today's Tuesday. No, today's Friday. Join us on the next show. We're going to have Evelyn. She's got a condition that only affects about 1 out of 20,000 people, and acute intermittent something. I can't remember it, but you know what? Tune in, find out. It's going to be awesome. And if there's anybody out there that wants to have their company featured on here, or any organizations that want to be a guest, or anybody that with an invisible condition they want to bring light to, bring it on. Let me know. Contact me through the Facebook page if you want, and we'll go for it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.